What's up, kids? How y'all doing? Happy Monday. Welcome back to the show. It's been 2 weeks. Gave y'all a break. Yes, we had the anniversary. We'll talk about that. First of all, I decided to use the intro at the last second for a bunch of different reasons. One of which is I just like that intro. And two, I wanted to give people a chance to come in to see, like, oh, he's actually live and things are, working. So welcome to the show. I do need to get in to that project and take the TGL out and just call it, Grindhead Live or something. Because I'm sick of trying to brand everything when everything is just moi, If there are things that we do with other people or certain show topics, yeah, those are going to be a thing. But when it comes to this, where it's just moi talking to y'all, it's just me. So we're, aside from that minor change to that intro, I'm going to bring the intro back because I missed that intro a lot. I hope you guys did too. But I want to say hi to everybody. I see Ian in the house. I see Boba Hicks. And I see Billy Wifta himself. I see Georgie. I haven't seen her in a long time. Says, hey, everyone, nearly bedtime. Boo! That's what the replay is for, my lady. And I get it. You across the world, you're tired. It happens. I completely understand. Joe DeBecky with a well-timed bruh. Right back to you, sir. Right back to you. Bo Hicks asks, how many elephants are on the curtain? Well, I mean, I'm not even sure it's technically a curtain. I think it's classified as a tapestry. Okay. Well, I like to think of it as a way oversized scarf. This is something that our family integrated from Lauren's collection. She has a big spiritual connection to elefantes, and I've gotten to be a bigger fan since we've been together. And although it's great to have a wall hanging here that does give some decor to the room. Its main purpose is to reduce sunlight glare so that when I'm watching television, I don't freak out and scream and holler as I want to do. Ask Lauren. She'll tell you. She will tell you. If there's glare on my TV, I freak out. I'm like, glare TV. I say it all the time. So this is as beautiful as it is functional. As to how many elephants are on it, fuck, I don't know, dude. I have no idea. And Universal Toy Collector, not to be outdone, is here. Says, hey, Groundhead, hi, Ted. Hello to you, sir. You inspired part of a point that I was going to make in today's stream. So hat is proverbially and literally off to you, sir. So count yourself as a collaborator. Okay, so I think I've got everybody. Awesome. Okay, so first of all, yeah, we took the week off as far as the live show because last Monday was our literal anniversary. We'd already done some celebrating over the weekend and stuff, but I always feel like that's the real day. Let's do something a little bit special. So we had a really nice dinner. Um, and I believe that we watched either some comfort movies or something brand new. You know, because comfort movies for us was like a handful. No, we watched Sandlot. That's what we did. Um, we really had a great time with that because we both love Sandlot, but we never watched it together. So we watched Sandlot, and it was a lot of fun. You know, um, just hanging out and having a good time. So it was great. 2 years into the marriage, things are good. They're great. Um, you know, everybody has different ways of processing joy, processing emotion, dealing with relationships. Lord knows I've been through a bunch of them myself. I do need to reiterate, as I'm sure it is obvious to all of you, I am deeply in love with my wife. I'm very appreciative of the support that we're able to give each other, and I'm looking forward to 200 more. So I love you, baby. Mwah. Um, and yes, despite it being a misspelling, I too go to Tron like Hoba Hicks. I think it's a cool idea. And welcome to the show, my friend. Welcome to the show. So we had that. I did a few shorts, and guys, honestly, I do a lot of the video shorts just to stay active and on little things that I don't necessarily want to clutter anything else with. So one of the things I talked about was the fact that the Snake Lair did indeed fund. It looked like it was going to be close, but at this point, with it being where it is, I don't think there's any real issue with it pulling back, because if you look at the numbers right now, it's not really there's not a huge issue. So like I haven't even reloaded this page for a while. It's over 6,100 now. So now we're at 6,143 in terms of your backers. So you know, because at this point those people do in fact know that they are not going to be getting the early bird, and it just doesn't seem like at the current rate of adoption that we're going to be seeing a lot of backouts at this point. I don't think anyone's under the illusion we're going to get Pythonus. It's just not going to happen. I don't know. Is this the way I saw it going? No, I actually thought it would be all the way up to the very end, and we get funded like right before the end, right? And yet, it did fund with Days to Spare. I just don't see there's enough interest for people to go in and get the 8,000. I think there's probably a sizable portion, probably more than the 2,000 that are needed to get to that 8,000, that had they been able to foresee that this was going to fund, they, would have gone in on the early bird, but didn't, because they're like, it's not going to fund. I'm not going to tie up my money for a month, which is fair, right? But I also think that now that they can't get the early bird, that they're just like, well, now I'm not going to do it. So unless Mattel pulls out some crazy thing like, you know what, everyone gets the early bird if you back it now, if we hit the 8,000, that might be a Hail Mary that they can pull off. I don't see any indication they're going to do that. And even if they did, there's no guarantee it would work. But I'm really happy that it funded, and I'm looking forward to receiving it, hopefully a little bit later than this time next year. So there's that. But what I really wanted to talk about with regard to it funding was something that they had teased before the funding had occurred, but also people had been asking for, right? So prior to it being funded, the Mattel comes out and says, hey, just so you know, when we hit 6,000 in fund, that unlocks payment plan options which hopefully should be able to, push people over the edge to get to 8,000 on this. Now, I don't care what kind of crowdfund we're dealing with here. Could be a HasLab, could be McFarlane's, what they call it, the drawing board, could be Tell Creations, right? I don't think that having the option to finance or put on a payment plan these things after you've hit a certain number when you're over halfway through the period is going to be enough to push things across. I think if you had payment plans in place from the beginning, it would be more enticing for more people. They could get early birds easier and so forth. And I have asked, and other people have asked, well, why is that? Why can't you just unlock it from the start? It seems simple enough, right? And I think that as soon as I say this out loud, you're going to go, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. And I hate that it does. I hate that it makes sense. But I think the reason payment plans don't unlock until after the initial funding number is reached is probably because of some terms or conditions of a payment plan being offered by PayPal or Shop Pay or whatever service the customer is using, because it's not Mattel doing this. It's not Hasbro doing that. It's not McFarlane doing it. It's a third party. So I think that because of this, if you're not hitting this number of people buying it, it's not a guaranteed item to be purchased. Okay. That because it's not in the eyes of finance a real thing yet, or like an actual order has been placed yet, you can't finance something that's not guaranteed to be fulfilled. Does that make sense? Now, does that mean that perhaps these services should make it more attainable or more accessible for things like this to offer payment plans for customers and collectors to be able to get this stuff? Maybe that's a good idea. I don't know if that's fiscally sound, but as soon as I had that thought drop into my head of, oh, maybe that's why. I don't like it. I wish it were not the case, but I do think that might be the reason why, one, they make a big deal out of it, and two, why that is in fact the case. So I wish that the financiers, the payment plan providers, could find a way to make that more accessible so that more people could potentially get in on these things if they want them. And I certainly think this particular crowdfund would have been different had that been the case. That's all I have to say about that. But I really wanted to just briefly touch on payment plans and why they're kind of a hot button in these things. And we don't talk about it enough. It's like, well, why aren't they a thing? Why aren't they a thing from the beginning? I think that's why, because there's not a permanence or a promise that a service or product is to be tendered until this number of people have paid direct cash for it, which I find odd, but that is what it is. So, and by the way, Stu, that was to the point of the poll that you put out earlier today. And if you haven't already, go over to his channel, hit the poll, because it is about financing and whether or not it can and cannot help these kinds of crowdfunds. And I think that on its head, yes, they can help. But I think they have to be more accessible and more available to both consumers and companies alike, because it looks like these third parties, for what are reasonable concerns to have, they're not currently doing that. So I think that while I do like sticking it to Hasbro and Mattel and McFarlane for not having these options, it looks like it's not just them that may be at play here. So, I'll spread the blame, if you will, a little bit. Stu says, I did a payment plan for a Sideshow Grogu. That's a pre-order. Right. It's a pre-order, meaning something that they have every intention to make, that they will make. They've already approved it. It's in the pipeline, right? But with a crowdfund, it's like, well, we want to make this. We're ready to go, but we need X thousand of you to say you want it too for us to actually greenlight and go into production. So depending upon how you look at it or how these finance companies look at it, because face it, they're all underwritten by banks. It's not just PayPal, the company, doing this. It's not just ShopPay, the company, doing this. They have an underwriting bank or banks that they work with. So it's like you can get a mortgage approved for a house that's being built in a development, right? But like, let's say for the sake of argument that a housing development that was being built, the contractor says we're not moving forward with building any of these houses until we get at least 6,000 houses sold, or 60 houses, or whatever would be reasonable in this analogy. I don't think the bank would approve a loan, because they have no guarantee that there's going to be any collateral attached to the financing. Okay. So I think that's what the difference is. But I'm grateful that you brought that up. Also, I find it hilarious that there are toys in the world that are not play sets or larger things that, well, I guess a Sideshow Grogu would probably be like this fucking big, right? It'd be like life size or whatever. But it's nuts to me that we're at a point in life where, like, well, you can get a life-size Grogu, or you can get a life-size Gremlin, which those look amazing, and so on and so forth. Probably best that they weren't available when I was younger, when I was a lot looser with money than I even am now. But that's my thing on payment plans, guys. Aren't I wonderful? So the title card of today's show and the title on the stream talks about making, quote, easy choices during difficult times. Okay, so you were helping me make a point. That's what I thought you were doing, Stu. I mean, I see you. We're good. But I appreciate it. I really do. Now, this can apply to a bunch of things, and I think you all know that, and you know me by now. But I always like to start with the context of collecting. Okay. So when things are difficult for us, be it emotionally or economically, or maybe like, maybe our mental health is in a good spot. Maybe we have not a huge change in our finances, and our job is secure. But you see that around you, the economic environment is changing. You know, a lot of people like to talk about inflation, precarious nature of the markets, things like that, right? And depending upon where your income is derived or how you split that income up, even if your day-to-day doesn't change, when there is a real or perceived hardship that is out there economically or is affecting the market and so forth, it forces you to make some changes in the way that you do things, whether that be how you buy food, how you collect, whatever. And, you know, when you're in that spot, right, it's almost like a shell game you play with yourself, you know, where it's like, okay, do I buy cheaper food and then like stick the same with the toys, or do I buy fewer toys and stick with this level of food? And, you know, maybe we drive around less. Honey, do you want to drive less? You know, all these different things, right? So you're juggling this stuff, and then you'll come to some sort of a conclusion at that point about what it is that's going to work for you and your family. Sometimes it's one person making the decision for many. Sometimes it's, you know, all the people in the family, all the adult members of the family getting together and figuring out what works. There's a lot of different variations on that idea, right? So when you get to that place, I think that whether we're doing it consciously or not, there's a subconscious priority being inflicted upon where you're doing things. And I think there's an obvious one, which is the economic side of things, which is, I think, what Goji's making a joke about here. He says, easy choice for collectors during hard times, eat more ramen noodles. Easy choice for collectors during good times, keep eating ramen. Right. Exactly. The implication and the assumption that all collectors would rather buy the nice toy because of FOMO and not eat as well or not go out or whatever. And I think for some people that's true. And I think that in situations like we're having now, where there is a lot of things affecting the the economies in all the different countries around the world, I think that there's a knee-jerk reaction. I think it's also a learned one, but to a more extreme, where it's like, okay, uh, I want to get a bit more focused on which toys I'm buying, or I'm slowing down completely to trickle of lowering this um, this budget down, what have you. Or maybe there is a compromise where instead of buying your food at Kroger, you're buying it at an Aldi or a Publix or something like that, where it's cheaper, but the quality isn't really lacking. You're just buying more stuff at those places as opposed to less. I think everyone balances in different ways, and I think that what's interesting to me about where we are right now, because so many people have said it, and enough have said it that I don't think this is just coincidental alignment of ideas. So many people I know that do collect, and it isn't just toys. It could be physical media for music or video games or films, books. This is a thing for book collectors too. Um, People that collect power tools. There are people out there that want to have like I know I don't have a need yet for this reciprocating saw with the product project I do, but if I ever need a reciprocating saw, I want that one because I know it works. There are people out there like that. They will just have the tools ready. The rainy day carpenter is what I call him. Dad was kind of a rainy day carpenter. He's like, I have these tools that I use every day. I make sure they're the best I can get, but also in the event I need something, I want to have it. There was a tool that I saw Dad use once in his entire life, or at least from my perspective, his entire life. So my entire life, I guess. And I asked him when he got that tool. He says, "Oh, I got this before you were born." I'm like, "Have you had a need to use it?" I might have used it one other time, but it's nice to know I have it if I need it, kind of a thing. And it was to repair a car. Well, my car, but welcome to the stream. And I hate when you have to spend that kind of money on a car repair. That 46 cents is too much for sure. But talking about whether you're talking about a power tool or a mechanical tool that you'll never use, or a toy or a video game, furniture, I don't care, whatever it is. There are standards that one sets for oneself given the market that's around us. So if the toy market were not where it is right now, in kind of a state of not winding down, but you can tell that they're running out of things to just chuck out at a breakneck pace, as we've talked about before. They're trying some new things. There's different toy lines that are finally getting their due. It's very reminiscent to me of the mid to late 80s, where okay, we've done the Transformers, the G.I. Joe, the superheroes, whatever. Now we have to latch them onto something new, whether it be Mask or Air Raiders or whatever. And we do have Mask coming back and so on. I think that the industry is at this point where it's very easy to go like, well, I'm just going to buy less toys, and then everything else works out financially, right? Which I will say, despite looking at a pile of toys right now, I have a 2 or 3 waiting for me at the mailbox right now, I have slowed down so much. And I would love to say that it's out of any other reason than basically there's less toys coming out that I find of interest and of need to fill holes in my collection. That is what it is. I would love to say it was because, I'm trying to save us money. And I am, but I'm lucky that the market is allowing me to just prioritize things a little bit more and be totally okay. That is weird to me, but I've seen other people saying the same thing, where they're like, I'm slowing down, or I'm done collecting. Like someone in my friend circle, friend of a friend kind of a thing, I've seen this more than once recently where they're like, I'm just done. I'm selling everything. And in both cases that I saw, it seemed they were more tired of the rat race of collecting than they were of the collection itself. Almost like the collection had kind of fed into this um, a negativity. But I will also say that people that I've seen say that they are people that, how do I say this? They were already somewhat unhappy with other aspects of life to begin with. So I begin to wonder that when we're talking about like easy decisions, right? So it's like, oh, economy's bad. I'll buy less toys, or I'll focus more on the toys and buy less extravagant things, or I'll, you know, go from going out to dinner twice a month to once a month, whatever. Um, we talk about those on the surface, but to somebody who's going through it emotionally, like they're having a really difficult time for whatever reason. Could be a problem with a relationship, could be a problem with a job, could be that the finances just aren't meeting muster anymore, could be a combination of those things, just could be emerging mental health concerns that they need to address more succinctly, and again, a combination. Who knows, right? Every person has a different struggle that they have to go through, and they're all valid, right? But when I look at someone who's willing to take this thing that they loved at one time and just sell it off like that. I'm not saying I don't understand, because I can definitely see getting to a point where it's like I just want to be rid of anything that reminds me of anything bad. And if the act of collecting itself was a bad vibe for you, I can see getting rid of a lot of stuff like that, right? I can 100% understand that being a thing. But I guess my question to you guys is, do you want, like in a case like that, do you think that it's possible that maybe the circumstances are dictating the decision in a way that is more than the circumstances should? Meaning, is this person subconsciously or emotionally feel forced into making this kind of change as a means to exert control over their own life and feel like they have something handled? Or is this something that's like, oh no, if they're not happy, just sell it off? I wonder if the circumstances or that certain combination of circumstances, right? If maybe the pressure were removed, if they would make the same decision. Does that question make sense? And start trickling in answers, because I am seeing some feedback here, which I'll check in with you guys right now. Talking about car repairs and yeah, World Medical, we're glad you're here. World Medical says his daughter's picking up soon, and everyone is saying that car repairs suck. They do. They really do suck. Melvor says he wishes his action figures could repair a car. I wish that too. That would be nice. World Medical Cardboard goes on to say that it seems like everything in his house is breaking down. His cars, refrigerator, washing machine. His wife had surgery on her hand. Well, all of our love to your wife. Hope that she heals quickly and well. And to your fridge and your car too. Shit, washing machine, all of it. But first and foremost, let's make sure Andy's okay. But I love Stu being deadly honest here. Says, I begrudge spending 600 pounds on a service and MOT, but 600 pounds on a collectible, no problem. I definitely understand that. It's like, I wanted to spend it on something fun. And Gojatron, always succinct, says, being an adult sucks, doesn't it? I never recommend it to anyone. Melvor says that he's slowing down on collecting himself. And Largo's Lair, welcome back to the stream. Good to see you, my friend. Largo is the proud owner of a drinking establishment down in the Guatemala. I forget the name of it. I can't pronounce it anyway. But if you're ever in Guatemala, go to his watering hole. I hear it's a blast. Largo's Lair says, love my shiny plastic people, but circumstances have definitely diminished the joy a bit. Yeah, I can understand that. I think part of it, and again, I'm only making assumptions because I know some of your patterns of behavior well enough. Just being so damn busy, having a hard time sleeping, just not having time to allow the joy to seep in, right? Then you've got, in your case, getting toys to you being a tenfold more difficult than it used to be. Certainly, you kind of have to, if you'll pardon the pun, you kind of have to put the hobby on the shelf for a while until something else changes, right? Um, but yeah, I get that. One of my cardboard says in 2003, when I lost my job, I sold off most of my collection just to make ends meet. But I will never sell my Shogun Warriors Godzilla. I think everyone has that list, right? Everyone has a list of things that, like, no, I'm not getting rid of this. Um, for me, it would be Series 1 superpower stuff. So the Hall of Justice, the original, I think 13 to 15 characters, and then the 3 vehicles. Those I would never get rid of. I'd never get rid of Unicron. And I would definitely never get rid of Eternia because that has such a link for me and Lauren. So that would mean a certain number of Motu figures would have to stay. And, granted, the vast majority of everything else, if I really had to, like, I would do that. We just don't want it to ever get to a point where we have to do that. Anytime I've mentioned that, even in passing, Lauren gets this look on her face and this tone in her voice. She's like, you will not. Like, you were not doing that. We'll find a different way. And I was like, okay. Because, and in fairness, she's referring to the fact that I've kept the CDs. Come hell or high water, hook or by crook, the CD collection has always remained. The DVD, VHS, Blu-ray collection has stayed safe all these years. Video games, same thing. And all of them, the youngest of those is toys. And before that, the youngest is the video game collection, which, as far as some of the retro stuff, like, I really bit the bug again in 2011, 2012. So, but I already had a collection. I just didn't call it a collection, right? So I see where she comes from in these situations. So when I think about that, it's like, and I'm not living anyone else's life. I'm living my life. I'm living my experience and perception of what we call life, right? So someone else's circumstances, someone else's reasons for getting into collecting in the first place, whatever, are going to be totally different. And are there reasons where it is justified to sell something off completely and then to be happy? Because some people have talked about selling off massive collections of things and feeling unburdened by those things. I can totally understand that. And I'll say something out loud I've never said out loud to anybody, not even really Lauren, I don't think. And it's that I just want a chance to have everything out and admired at the same time. Because I've never had everything out at the same time. So having the media collection, film, and music, which is in there, video games, books, and toys, all in their own spaces, displayed at the level they deserve to be displayed at. Actively curating all of those things for at least a year or so. And I think after that, if there's something I'm going to get rid of, it will present itself to me, right? But I don't really think that's going to happen, because I think part of the drive behind getting this stuff is, like, I'm also going to find a place for you to live. That's always been the thing. My entire adult life has been an uphill struggle to find a place for my stuff, to quote George Carlin. You got to have a place for your stuff. 100%. Something that's a huge part of my thing. Okay, so Jim Largo agrees that the last few years have gone a bit wonky. Yes, they really have, but we're going to come out the other side of it. We're going to get your toys to you somehow. John chiming back in. There are a few toys I regretted selling, but it helps to know that some of those toys are prized in someone else's collection. I would imagine so. I would not sell to someone that gave me a reseller vibe. I would never do that. Unless I went into a store that I knew would benefit from it and a collector would come in to buy it. So, for example, Um, if I decide to sell some stuff, I'm probably going to go to one of my local Portland stores before I even think about listing something. Not because of anything other than the love of the game, right? So I like the idea of going in, saying, hey, I've got this thing, I don't really need it, and then getting store credit or something like that. And then that being a thing to help expand the collection in a different direction or something like that. I think that's entirely a possibility too. But it is more in keeping with the hobby, I think. Um, Ian says, I deeply regret moving on from your book collection. Yeah, that's something that, again, my books, they're scattered. I got a bunch of books here, bunch of books in there. And then a lot of the stuff that I bought during the pandemic books are like in the closet over there. And I haven't had all my books in one place on display for nearly 10 years. Um, and I have had so many more books kind of flushed out from moving a couple times since. It's like, oh, so I'm looking forward to this idea of organizing my books, whether they be self-referential, like yearbooks and Marine Corps stuff and things like that. And then maybe having all the fictional stuff, things like that. So like in the office, it might be more all the self-referential stuff. It would make sense to have in there, certain stuff like that. But then out in like the living areas, the common areas, like have fictional stuff and some help stuff and whatever. I'm looking forward to that. And then, quite frankly, getting more books. Like if I have dedicated bookshelf space in my house, I'm going to want more books. And I find it interesting. It's like Spotify. I'll find a new album I really like on Spotify, and then I'll want to buy the physical copy. A great example of this earlier this year was Blood Incantation. I just happened to get recommended a video of Blood Incantation or heard something about them in passing, and I just fell in love immediately. Loved the band. Went listening to all their albums. Loved it, and I bought their most recent album in a format that has a hardcover book, right? That comes with the CD, a Blu-ray, and I think two CDs and a Blu-ray. So like a CD of a EP, the album itself, and then a Blu-ray of the making of the album, plus the album and surround sound and stuff. It's all this crazy artwork and whatnot. Could have just bought the damn CD. But I decided I liked it so much, I wanted this special thing. And I think that's part of that. Like I like having the tactile things, and books are something that are really good about that. So like that's an example of that. Spotify and YouTube led me to this physical thing. Well, with Audible, I buy a lot of audiobooks. I still want to have a hard copy of the book that I got the audiobook of, and I'm really wild for hardcover with a book too. Oh, no worries, John. Have a safe drive home. Love you to death, man. Largo making the space for your stuff is the final frontier. These are the voyages of a fat guy named Grindhead Jim. Bill started a thought, says for books, CDs, DVDs, he will something. I'm hoping he follows up because I'm curious, really curious, Bill, what that would be. Like what your attitude towards those things are. I have a feeling it might be, he says, books, DVDs, and CDs. I'll die before giving up physical media. Same. I mean, at a certain point, these are unimpeachable pieces of media, right? When the internet's out, doesn't matter. I've got a bunch of stuff I can do. I've got books to read. I've got movies to watch. I've got games to play. I've got music to listen to. I don't have to worry about shit. And although that wasn't always the reason behind getting them, it certainly has become one of the best selling points to keeping them, right? So it is definitely a something I think about a lot, and I'm really glad that you share that, for sure. So beyond that, beyond like books, DVDs, CDs, vinyl, Blu-rays, video games, toys, the stuff we've talked about already. Sports cards, I think, would be something. Certain kinds of games that have cards with them would fall into that as well. Is there anything else that is a possession that you prize so much you would never get rid of it, no matter what, no matter how dire the situation, right? Could be a family heirloom, could be anything, could be a prized piece of furniture. We have this coffee table that I've had since 2003. It's a little rough, probably needs a little bit of a refinish, but we love the table, and the table it loves us right back because it's very reliable. And even though this may not have a place in our living room in Portland, or at least not the living room we have first up, it's something we want to hang on to because we just love this table. Anytime I've even entertained the thought of replacing it outright, Lauren gets that same look on her face. So we want to keep it, and we'll use it somewhere. Like we hope to have like a sunroom or an indoor-outdoor space where you lounge, have a vape, have a smoke. And we think that table would probably do best there. We'll find out. But it is certainly one of these things that we wouldn't want to get rid of if we could help it, for sure. And Ozzy, I don't think I said hi to you. Hi, it's good to see you. Ozzy says that he loves his physical media. Yeah, absolutely. So Ozzy's example is a signed Bleeding Through CD and signed Slayer box set booklet by all four original members. That's cool. I'm curious which box set that is, just for my own thing. My favorite box set they ever did was the Decade of Aggression, 3 CD or 4 CD. It was more than 3 CDs because you could get just the live thing, Live Aggression. But if you got the Decade of Aggression box set, you got that, plus you got other like demos and bootlegs and shit. It's pretty cool stuff. That was like box set suddenly became this huge thing right around that time, like 90, 91. That's when things really got big. Like Aerosmith put out Pandora's Box, and then everyone puts out a box set, it felt like. It's kind of nuts. Largo with a great answer says, my hat, his hat. Yeah, that's a great hat. Your hiking sticker always going to have a place in your collection. There you go. I think everyone's got that thing or those things that mean a lot to them. I don't like to think of my T-shirts and my hats as a collection, but they kind of are, because I don't just grab any old hat or any old T-shirt. I'll take free hats and free T-shirts. That has happened. That will continue to happen. But I don't know for sure that like I don't know that selling any of that stuff would be worthy, but there are certainly certain shirts, certain hats that mean a lot to me, that no matter what fate my old clothes have and accessories have, that those will never go until I do, kind of thing. I have this set of coffee mugs that, and I think I've talked about this on the show before. So my dad had a set of these, or at least we had 2 or 3 of them, right? And the first time I ever drank coffee was out of one of those mugs. And I didn't take advantage of maybe taking one of those mugs when I should have. I just didn't think of it when my mom died. I should have grabbed it. Or they'd already been broken or something, as I recall. And my Aunt Jean, my dad's sister, found a set. And they all got broken, not by me. And then I ended up getting some more this year or last year. And so we're gonna get a larger set of them over time, because they're out there. It's just finding the right ones that fit the need. Just because, one, I don't want to ever be without one again. And that's weird too. Like, you ever find something that like you have one thing of, but it's possible to have more, so you just get a bunch of them because you never want to be without that thing. That's certainly true for action figures. It's definitely true for music and physical media for film. But a coffee mug seems a bit different. Is there anything like that like because of your fear of losing that thing, you buy more of. Anyone have something like that? Ozzy said it's the Welcome to the Apocalypse box set from Slayer, and all the demos, European bonus tracks, and live stuff. Nice. Okay, so that's all signed. That's good. It's a good thing. Never give that up. That's good stuff, man. Um, another example of that for me, and I know it's another fucking coffee mug, but I have that black Batman coffee mug from Applause from 1990, 89, 90. My sister got it for me for my birthday, 7th grade. Remember it plain as day. 1990. It was my first real coffee mug. It was for me. Love that thing. And that thing lasted a long time. Then it broke one day in Chicago, and I got another one, but I also got a Spider-Man one to kind of like take some of the heat off of it. And I've lost or broken it 2 more times since. And I always have one to replacement with. And unwittingly, our Epic Badger sent me another one, but this time with the box. So I have a boxed one as well. And anytime I see one of those things, I have a saved search. I see one that's a decent price, I'm not going to spend crazy amounts of money to replace it. But I will pick one up. I want to have at least a couple in reserve because I don't ever want to be without that thing. Because it was such a special gift from my sister at a special time in my life. And I will always have that represented in my house for me to touch. It's a comfort item for me. Ian says, I feel I have very little in my collection that would enable me to buy myself out of trouble, and I'm honestly good with that. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, in the sense of like, although it's not intentional, by me having a lot of modern stuff in my collection, that stuff is not going to appreciate in value anytime soon in the way that other stuff has. Some stuff, sure. But not in the ways that the vintage stuff does. And the vintage stuff that I have that is worthy, that's the stuff I'm probably never going to get rid of. So it's just like this place where it's like, well, it's not worth selling it. Like you'd never get out of it what you put into it in the first place. Ozzy says, now that Ozzy Osbourne has passed, my dad had been in the early 80s, got a signature and gave it to me. Never getting rid of it. Of course not. You should have that thing sealed. Seriously, like have it sealed like hermetically in something. Preserve it. And I knew it was eventually going to come up, but I'm glad Largo's the one that brought it up. Gojatron's catch and release philosophy of collecting is a good example of managing the space and budget issues in toy collecting. Absolutely. So for those of you that don't know, our friend Carl, the Gojatron, he has a nice sized toy room. And when he gets new stuff, he tends to get rid of old stuff, or vice versa. Like when he tends to, expand and contract, his collection is a living, breathing organism. And I think that there's a lot of people in this friend circle of mine. We all have stuff from him. Everybody does. One of my biggest pieces of my collection that is from him is probably my Aliens and Predators from Leonard. And I love those things, and they're staying in the collection. I'm not getting rid of them because they're beautiful, and I love them, and I love him. And I think for him, that's part of the coolness is that you get to say, okay, I love this. Now I'm moving on from it. But I will also say there's a flip side to that. There are toys that he will buy. There are things he will buy for the collection that I would never buy. Right. There are he will experiment more, I think, than a lot of us do. Because he knows that the stuff he ends up not liking or it fading into obscurity for him, he will get rid of. And he's okay to do that. So although it isn't as much of a fleeting pastime as like going to a movie, you have nothing to come away with but the experience. I think for him, and I don't want to speak for him, but my observation, it seems to me it's somewhere between this practical thing that he's saying here. He has finite space and don't like keeping stuff in storage. I think that's a huge part of it. That's the biggest driver behind it. But it almost feels, and you can confirm or deny, Carl, it feels to me like you've gotten to this place where certain kinds of toys are not dissimilar from going to the movies or a nice restaurant where it is not going to last forever. This going in, but you want to have that joy for that couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years, and then okay, I'm done with it. So I think that the impetus of having finite space and not liking to keep stuff in storage has gotten you to a place where with some stuff you can go like, this is going to be temporary, but it's still going to be fun. And I like that philosophy. I don't find myself adopting that because when I'm faced with a toy that would be nice to have, but I don't feel driven to get it. Like I don't see where it would fit in the collection initially. I just don't get it. Maybe my philosophy will change once there's like the dedicated shelves and stuff. Everything has its thing. Maybe. I don't know. I admire those people that are flexible in that way. But to bring it all back around here, maybe when those shelves are dedicated and I have the space that is now defined for me and my collection, and our things are all displayed and everything is the way that it is, maybe all of my priorities and philosophies about collecting will change because the circumstances have changed. Maybe the economy will have finally calmed the hell down and the world will be a little bit less volatile. But my priorities personally will have changed. And that's something worth revisiting, when that does happen, if it happens. But my thing here is that don't let temporary circumstances pressure you into making permanent decisions. That's really all I have to say about that subject, folks. So, as per usual, I want to wrap things up with a quick Q&A. Has anything been on your mind? Anything that happened last week that you want to talk about before we go? Or just a hi, how are you? By all means, do so. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that before we hop off. But, I just really felt like having a discussion about that because I feel from several different directions, people kind of changing the way they're looking at the hobby. And I wonder how much of that is directed by external forces or their feelings about those external forces. And they are having the reaction of being forced to do something that maybe they don't really want to do, but they don't realize it. And I felt that was fascinating. And I wanted to wrap it into a nice little conversation, hopefully make you guys think about your relationship with your stuff. Lauren can tell you that even though I love having the things that we have, I do have a love-hate relationship with the inability to organize it at this time. And you guys have heard me say it a billion times, right? But that it really drives up the chaos factor that just drives me absolutely insane. So we'll see. Largo says the quote can unquote philosophy seems most popular. Get what you can what you get, sit on the can. Yeah. And then Ian adds till you can the lot. So for those that maybe this is a cool saying, but like it does not roll off the tongue. So I'm saying get the things that you're able to, hold on to it and store it and preserve what you get, and then just sit back, take a shit, relax until such point as you have to get rid of it. I think that's an interesting philosophy. I think a lot of us think we're that miserly old men. I'm starting to look like that. I need to get this trimmed so bad. This is, I'm pressing in my hair so bad. It's still crazy long. It is nuts. It's going to get trimmed before long. Well before the trip, because I don't really feel like sitting in a car for 24 hours, driving or not. Just not feeling my best, but before any big cut, it's like the longer you let it grow, the more opportunity you have to make it something really cool. So that's kind of where we're at. Like, do I wait a little bit longer or do I just let them go at it? And I'm kind of at that point where it's like, I don't care. I just need to get this done. But in any case, folks, I hope that you've enjoyed today's show. I hope it made you think. I certainly had fun. It was good to talk to you guys. But, may all your card backs be straight. May all your grinds be merry. May you be able to find anything you're looking for at any given time at a price you feel is reasonable. Especially if someone is pressuring you into doing something you don't want to do. Determine how much that's going to cost you. Take care, guys. We will see you. Looks like next week